So Ms. Walker, again, what are your duties as director of the Rainbow Shelter?
To oversee the staff, the clients, just the overall running of the shelter, daily running of the shelter.
Okay. What is the shelter?
What is it? The Rainbow Shelter is a shelter for victims of domestic violence and their children.
And I didn't want to ask you where, because I don't know. I know some places there it's secret as to the location.
Right.
So is that
in Gary? It is in Gary. I don't know if I would be okay to say the address.
You don't need to say the address.
Okay. So it is located in Gary?
Yes.
Okay. And some of your clients, some of the women who have to utilize your services, do they have matters that typically, do they have occasion to utilize the 4D court?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And they utilize that court for what reason?
Child support court, just to get a printout from child support to take any service that they're applying for. A large majority of our clients are on public aid or needing to utilize Calumet Township Trustee's office for rental assistance. And any assistance that they're applying for, they always have to get printouts from the court stating they do or don't receive child support.
And do you have any responsibility for assisting them and getting them to the 4D court?
No, we don't.
You don't have it. And why is that?
We just don't have, we don't supply transportation. We don't have a means to supply transportation because of our staffing issues. A lot of times it's one staff person per shift.
How do they get there?
Your Honor, at this point I'm going to object to any further testimony by this witness. Your Honor said that she could testify as to her role in transporting these people.
Well, she asked her how they get there. If she knows how they get there, she can testify as to that.
How do they get there?
They walk.
If that were in Crown Point, how would they get there?
Objection, speculation.
Would they be able to walk to Crown Point?
No, they wouldn't.
Thank you. No question for this witness.
These individuals who have matters before the 4D court, they can also get a copy of the records from the prosecutor's office, can they not?
For child support?
Yes.
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
But you don't work directly with the prosecutor's office on 4D matters, do you?
No, not usually.
Anything else for this witness? Anything else?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. May we stand to be sworn, please? Raise your right hand, mister. Swear affirm testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. State your name out loud and have a seat before the court, please.
Sandra Martinez.
Ms. Martinez, can you tell the court, how are you employed?
I work for the City of Chicago.
And what do you do for the City of Chicago?
I'm the interim director for the public transportation.
How long have you been in that position?
I've been in that position for 2 years, but I've been in that department on different levels for 15 years.
And can you describe the East Chicago public transit system for us?
Sure. It is a small transportation system. It has 3 routes, and it also provides paratransit services.
Do your buses leave outside of the East Chicago city limits?
There are connections outside like Gary Transportation will connect with East Chicago, but East Chicago will go all in East Chicago and to a little on the outskirts. For example, Bishop Mill. It'll go west Chicago and to Bishop Mill. It will go south at Indianapolis Boulevard to the Woodmark Mall, and south to the Kmart on Ridge Road and Clinic.
And so the Klein one is in kind of Griffith,
Outskirts of Griffith, yes.
and then the Bishop Knoll, is that
Hammond.
And so it's Woodmar's Hammond.
Correct.
I know where everything is.
Can you tell us what is the cost for the East Chicago public transit system?
East Chicago Transportation currently does not charge a fare.
How would residents get from East Chicago to the court in Gary?
Here, the Tri-City Connection, which picks up on either Chicago and Indianapolis and Columbus and Euclid, Elm Street, and it takes you east to down by 4th Street to the courthouse.
Do you know how long that trip takes?
Usually it takes about 45 minutes.
And what time is the first connection?
The first connection on 7:15, and then the second, it's 7:15 from Chicago and Indianapolis, and 7:25 from Columbus and York.
But you do not have a bus that goes from East Chicago. Do you have a bus that goes from East Chicago to Crown Point?
No, we don't. We have to actually do transfers with Gary. The number 12 Gary will take you to the Metro Center. From the Metro Center, you would take the 17 bus that will bring you to here to Crown Point.
Okay. And if you have a 8:30 hearing in Crown Point, what time would you have to make a connection or leave Chicago West?
You would not be able to make it because the first bus will not get to here to Crown Point with that connection until 8:53 because again, the first bus will pick you up in Chicago at 7:15. By the time you get to the Metro Center, it's approximately 7:50 something. And then, of course, you've already missed the 7 o'clock bus from the Metro Center here, so you would have to pick up the 8 o'clock bus that will get you here approximately 8:53 if it's running.
And you indicated that there is no cost to ride the bus in East Chicago. Does that translate over into Gary because you started with East Chicago? Is it then free to then, I guess, have a transfer over to the Gary system?
No, actually, with the one bus just going the number 12, just take you directly to the courthouse. That was actually $1.60. But because you're transferring to 2 buses, now you're paying $2.25 each way.
What is the, I guess, the economic status of the citizens of East Chicago?
The foundation.
Are you familiar with economic status of the citizens in?
Yes, I am.
Your foundation for that knowledge.
Is it the economics of the citizens or the bus system?
No, the citizens of East Chicago. Because she said East Chicago, we don't have any costs. They're riding the bus, but there will be a cost associated with them connecting with Gary. And I don't know if that will have an impact on them. You asked me to, I guess, to link up what the testimony
She's linking it up, right? It's up to the witness to the foundation to move on.
Let's get the foundation laid before we get into these.
What would be your basis for knowing about the economic status of the citizens in Chicago?
For the 15 years that I've been in the city of Chicago, I've had to gather information for the National Transit Database. That's an annual report that we do online every year. East Chicago is a very transit-dependent community. We can actually see how people are, most of them are on assistance, government assistance. The lines for just Salvation Army, even for lunchtime,
Your Honor, she's going beyond this.
She's explaining what the economic status and how she knows it.
She was funding the foundation for that knowledge.
And I think that's what she's doing.
She testified when she's sticking to her statistics and what she knows, fine, but I don't know about this line at the Salvation Army, unless she personally observes it.
Have you personally witnessed the line at the Salvation Army?
I have, because I have actually helped them in the kitchen.
Thank you. So, based upon all of this experience and knowledge and observation, what would you say the economic status of the citizens of East Chicago should be?
The citizens of Chicago actually call me continuously, say that they're happy that we don't charge a fare yet, because there have been talk about that.
Your Honor, hearsay.
Wait,
He's already given the answer.
she said citizens call her.
So, and they've expressed their pleasure. Okay.
And we've actually asked, because we have to do surveys as well because of our safety programming plan that we have with NERC, and when we've asked them about charging a fare.
Your Honor, hearsay. She's talking about we are...
Asking people what they said, and it's hearsay.
Okay. All right, but there is no charge. So for each
meeting.
Okay. No, she's already testified to that. We're trying to get back to.
She just established there's no charge.
Yeah. Would it be a fair statement to say that many of
Your
the
Honor,
citizens
leading.
do the citizens in East Chicago own cars?
Your Honor, leading. Oh, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Not leaving, all right.
It's fine.
There are cars in East Chicago, as far as how many per family, I wouldn't know.
But the people who typically utilize need to get to the 4D court, do they typically have their own personal transportation?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Sorry. To your knowledge, has it always been easier to get to Gary via the bus than to Crown Point?
Yes, I stated earlier that before it was just one bus, and that one bus is just 45 minutes to an hour, and it's only $1.60, as opposed to coming here and having to transfer to two buses and paying $2.25 a ride.
And it's always been more difficult than to get to Crown Point, correct?
Correct. Have you ever had any personal experience with the 4D court? The family part?
Yes.
Yes, I have. Past experience.
Okay, and what experience have you had?
I had to go there for child support myself.
Okay. Did you have transportation to do that?
At the time I didn't. This is going back 20 years, but at the time I didn't.
Your Honor, just relevance to 20 years.
Has the transportation system changed in 20 years in Lake County?
Let me rule on the objection. I'm going to rule the objection because get argued.
Okay.
You can answer the question if you remember it.
I do remember, sir. What happened is I would get on the bus in Chicago and come to Gary, and at the time I had a child, so I had to look for somebody to either watch my child or I had to bring my child with me, which was hard enough in itself. Now, I had to bring my brother to Crown Point because he didn't have transportation.
Your Honor, relevance. And that's not responsive to the question.
It's not his objection. No question before.
She was explaining about her experience with the 4D court and the 4D system. So, and that's what she's testifying to. So she has actually had to transport someone out this way for the 4D court.
Could you
Provide.
Why don't you ask her that experience?
In addition to your personal experience of having to to catch a bus to get to the 4D court in Gary. Have you had to transport anybody else?
Yes, recently, as a matter of fact, in October, I had to bring my brother here. My brother's car broke down, and he was going to have to take the bus, and it wasn't going to get him here in time, he said. So I brought him out this way.
Thank you. Another question?
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
So you don't have any pending matters before the 4D court now, do you?
That's correct.
And that last hearing was in October 2012 that you referred to for your brother?
Correct.
And did he miss that hearing?
He did not. I brought him here.
And that was before any consolidation between the Crown Point and the Gary 4D court, correct? That was before February of 2012?
Correct.
2013?
Correct.
Thank you. And do you know how it was determined? Let me strike that, sir. Are you aware that it was a random system that assigned your brother to the Crown Point courthouse as opposed to the Gary courthouse?
No, I did not.
So were you aware that there are individuals from some of the south areas of Lake County that would have to travel to Gary? Were you aware of that?
No.
And just briefly, so what would be the total, one more time, just to clear up, the total cost from someone going from East Chicago to Gary and then back again?
Okay, from East Chicago, you could take the 12 bus, the number 12 Gary bus. If it was just to Gary, that'd be $1.60. But because, let's say somebody has to come out here to Crown Point, you take the number 12 bus to the metro station. The metro station, you get your number 17 bus that'll bring you out here.
So
the total cost,
Go ahead, that's okay, I'm sorry.
the total cost would be $2.25.
Thank you. So there is a bus that goes from the Gary courthouse to right outside
Metro station.
Metro Station, from Metro Station to the government center here.
Correct.
Right. The bus, do you know where the bus stop is?
Here?
Yes.
It passes in front of the other building, the administrative building, I believe.
Thank you. And you testified earlier that the earliest someone would get here would be 8:53 from East Chicago.
Leaving Chicago at 7:15 in the morning.
And but you're not aware of what would happen what happens when someone comes to court at 8:53. What happens after they get to the 4D courtroom?
All I know is I've heard people talk that the bus never gets here on time. That I don't know.
Okay, but you don't know what happens in the courtroom when that. Okay, thank you. Are you aware that the Jimenez Community Partner Program for Curb to Curb service?
I am not aware of that service at all.
Are you aware of the Dial-A-Ride service
I'm aware of the Dial-A-Ride service.
that provides the curb to curb service for certain qualifying individuals?
It does provide, at this time, I do also know because
Okay, thank you. That's And are you aware that there's no bus from Lowell to Gary?
Yes.
No further questions.
Redirect.
You wanted to explain how you were familiar with that program?
I'm familiar with the program of North Township because twice a month the transit operators meet, once in Portage and once in Hammond. And at this time, ever since the RVA has been out of service in July 1st of last year, 2012. What Bill we're trying to do is get people around, and with all of the transportation agencies are trying to get together to do that. At this point, Jerry Siska, which works with Rick Berman at North Township, has said that the funding isn't the biggest problem.
You're saying.
Right, this is his line of questioning.
I mean, she said about the dial-a-ride. Obviously, there's a problem with it. Ask her what the problem is.
What's the problem with the dollar-ride program?
They don't have enough drivers.
So they can't get the people from all around out here to Crown Point?
Correct. At this point, they were just talking about only having 4 drivers.
Okay. Thank you. And we talked about the cost of going from East Chicago to Gary to Crown Point and then back. I guess you have to retrace your steps to Crown Point, back to Gary, then to East Chicago. What is the time does it take to do all of that?
2 hours.
And that's with children in tow?
That's children in tow as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything, read across?
Briefly. Just briefly, sorry. Are you aware that the dollar-ride service is based on a first-come, first-served basis?
Yes, that's demand response.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Costa.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
At this time, we'll call them home.
Small, stand be sworn, sir.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear a firm testimony you're about to give is truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
You may be seated.
State your name out loud for the court.
Carlson Mahone.
Sworn, can you spell your name so the court reporter can take that down correctly?
Carlton Mahone.
Tell the court, if you would, where you live.
I live at 6031 Hemlock, in Miller.
Okay. In what city is where you're located?
Here.
Okay, this Gary, Indiana?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you have to say yes or no so that the record's clear on what your response is. Now, you are a plaintiff in this case, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you have have you had the occasion to be involved in 4D cases in Lake County, Indiana?
Yes.
All right. And can you tell the court where you if you are employed?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And now you have been employed in the past, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does the reason for your unemployment have anything to do with matters that pertain to 4D?
Yes, sir.
Okay, explain to the court what that connection is.
Rearage on my child support. They suspended my license.
And now, with the suspended license, you are not able to drive, is that correct?
Right. I drive a truck.
And is there anything else that your suspended license interferes with regard to what would be your daily activities?
Getting around.
Big bird?
Getting around to, look for work and basically, without, I can't drive. So I get pulled over and go to jail. So, I don't want to do that.
Okay. And the fact is, you have attended court regarding
4D cases in Gary, Indiana. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the court, for instance, today, did you have your own transportation to get to court in Crown Point?
No, sir.
How did you get here?
Somebody picked me up. I had to get a ride, but they called me and told me they would come and pick me up, bring me out here.
All right. And before you actually got a person to, before a person actually came to pick you up to bring you here so you would testify to this court, can you tell us whether or not you tried to make some other arrangements?
Yes, and people, I asked 3 or 4 different people to bring me out here because the way the bus is scheduled, I wouldn't have got here till like 3 o'clock. And then if I got, to leave early and then to sit around somewhere, I just think,
Okay. So now you in fact, you later talked to me today about your inability to come as a witness.
Yes.
And let me ask you, were you here on Friday?
Yes.
Okay, you were here waiting to testify?
Yes.
Okay. Let me show you what's been marked and admitted into evidence as defendants' exhibits. A, C, and D. If I can get those exhibits, so I can make sure I get them. First, I'm going to show you what's marked as exhibit A. That document is already in evidence. Can you tell us, in the caption, who is Jordan Deontay Thomas Perkins?
That's my son.
Okay. And when was your son born?
In 93. I mean, I don't know, 91, yeah. 91.
Okay. That's 8/20,
8/28, 91, yeah.
Okay. And now that case was in paternity court in Gary, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that at 4th and Broadway?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so the 4th and Broadway location is the place that you had to go to get to court. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, aside from the other vicissitudes of life that may have interfered with you going to that court, would it have been more difficult and more of a hardship if you had to come to Crown Point? Let me finish my question, so it's on the record. Would it have been more difficult and a hardship upon you had you had to come to Crown Point for that court, as you did today, as opposed to having to go to 4th and Broadway?
No, I get speculation.
Well, what was the objection again?
Speculation, Your Honor. He doesn't have any cases. Here he hasn't testified that he did come here in the past as opposed to here.
Right. Let's see.
You came to court Friday, did you?
Yes, I came to Friday.
Okay. And you came to court today?
Yes. Well,
Okay. And it was difficult for you to, was it more difficult for you to come to court when you came here
yes.
than it would have been to go to Gary before the Broadway?
It was more difficult getting here than it would be to get there.
Now, You also had another case that was that involved a 4D proceeding, did you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm going to show you. With that case have been the divorce case, which started off as a divorce case, the marriage of Amika Mahone versus Carlton Mahone. I'm going to ask this doctor if you want to explain his exhibit 6, I believe. 5.
Have you seen a copy?
I've got one, yes.
I'm going to show you what's marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 5. And ask you, does that appear to be a document pertaining to the marriage of Amika Mahone and Carlton? Okay, you have to speak up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on the back of that document, the last page of that document, last page, very last page, is there a certification from the clerk?
Yes.
Of that document?
Yes, sir.
Okay, may I have the document? I've given a copy to the counsel for the defendants, and we move that they admitted in the evidence, certified copy, of course, on record.
No objection.
Exhibit number 5 admitted.
Mr. Mahone, if you would return to the entry in the docket sheet, which is now admitted in the evidence, which indicates 6/11. Excuse me. It indicates the date of 6/17/2011. Okay. That shows an entry on a petition to determine arrears. You see that entry?
Yes, sir.
6/17/11 at the top, near the
Yes,
top
sir.
of the page?
Yes.
Okay. Go on the court if you would. If you have the 10, we'll strike that. At the next entry for 6/17/11, there is also an entry indicating a hearing for that same date.
Yes.
That hearing of the entry 6/17/11, but indicating the the judge before whom the petition was going to be heard. You see that entry?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that Judge Gregory Gillis?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you appeared before Judge Gillis on matters pertaining to this case,
Yes.
even though the case started out as a divorce case. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And since the matter pertaining to arrears, tell the court whether or not you're still paying arrears.
Yes.
Okay. And you're paying arrears with regard to that docket, to this case that is Claims Exhibit 5. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in addition to that arrears case, you also have an arrears matter for the case that we identified earlier.
Yes,
From the green sheet of in other words, the fraternity of
Yes.
Jordan Deontay Thomas Perkins. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it your position, Mr. Hall, that if the 4D court, which you attended hearings at 4th and Broadway, were moved here so that you would have to, we'll strike that. Are you required to go back to court on these arrears matters anytime?
Yes, sir.
And when is that?
The first of next month, sir.
First of what?
April.
1st of April 2013?
Yes, sir.
And if you were required to come to Crown Point instead of coming to Gary, where you had been going for these hearings, would that also impose a difficult and hardship on you?
Objection, speculation. There's no showing that he has to come back to Crown Point April 1st.
You just said he did.
He said he had a 4D matter. He didn't say he had to come back to Crown Point.
Well, ask if he has to appear. Is he ordered to appear on that day? He has a court date that day that he has to appear at?
Not in Crown Point.
Well, wait a minute. But because it's a 4D matter, if the 4D court that he had to appear at was in Crown Point, the question is, if that 4D court were in Crown Point, would that be more of a hardship on him?
And that's speculation because it's not the same 4D court as we're talking about in this matter.
Well, maybe counsel has some questions on